yeah, you're a degenerate. You're not perfect. You make stupid choices sometimes. You make terrible choices sometimes, but you are still sacred and holy in your entire being, every cell in your body, and every aspect of your mind, body, and soul, as they are and as they always have been. So many people are stuck in a paradigm of shame. So many people are stuck in this constant loop of not being enough for others, not being enough for themselves. But you don't need to be in that loop, because the fact that you exist at all is evidence that you're perfect as you are. Because you wouldn't have been who you are and what you are unless it was part of the whole story of the universe. And you are a part of that story. And ultimately, you are the entire thing. You're the storyteller. You're the story itself. You're me. I'm you. So when we're having a lot of shame, when I'm experiencing a lot of shame, it's kind of like the whole world's caving in because nothing you do is enough. Doesn't matter if you've accomplished amazing things in the past. If you're not able to be in that peak state today, then that means something's wrong. But that doesn't mean that something's wrong. That's actually being a normal human, to go through fluctuations in your mental state and emotional state, even on a daily basis. But what's, abnormal, what's a product of overworking ourselves and a product of the dangers on earth and trying to survive from them and protect ourselves, is this mindset of shaming ourselves into submission and forcing us to behave how we logically know that we should, which is bypassing the fact that you're not simply a logical being. You have so many layers, and you can't just operate in a sense that you know what you should do, so then you should somehow be able to just only do what you should do just because you know what to do. Because we don't have complete control over ourselves. We don't have complete control over the reactions in each individual layer of our field. We have so many different layers. If you just looked at it in the energetic bodies layer, you have 7 bodies, each of which are centered around one of your chakras. So you have 7 layers just right there. And in each of those, you could break each layer down into more layers. You have your etheric body, which is the energy that governs your physical body. You have your emotional body that emits from your sacral chakra. There's some leaf blowers going on, but it's a beautiful day in the Aina out here in the land in Oahu. This is the Sacred Degenerate podcast, episode 1. And I'm really excited. This is a new venture that I'm just getting started in because I feel like it's a lot more embodied than a lot of my older content. I came up on TikTok in 2020 making really enthusiastic, positive videos about how life is and about advice and different perspectives and cool, funny things that I wanted to share. And I grew a lot of followers. Within a year, I grew about 300,000 followers on TikTok. And that was a huge eruption of success in my life. And it allowed me to start a business and start being able to travel the world. So that's how I live here out in Hawaii. And it's been a really amazing journey, but it's also come with a lot of hardships, because when there's so much pressure on you to become successful and to expand upon your success, you can either get into shame loops and these toxic spirals that happen where you are obsessively trying to do the right thing all the time to continue being successful and continue expanding. But instead, you end up tripping up and making mistakes and then getting more ashamed of yourself and then tripping up and making even more mistakes. And it's a constant loop. Or you can go the route of letting go of that and transcending it and going to a higher level where you're not deeply affected by the moment to moment things that happen in life. and you are centering yourself upon something that's much greater. So, yeah, for me, I, got all that success, but I was still the same person in a lot of ways on the inside. I was more motivated, I was more confident, but I still had a lot of the same bad habits and still had uh, a deep sense of lack within myself that I was trying to cover up by taking a lot of action and by working really hard and by um, focusing so much on what I was creating instead of on enjoying what was already here in my life that I had created. And this became like a really toxic looping pattern for me. Um, and it just fueled more shame, which ended up fueling lower vibrations and getting stuck in mindsets and realities that didn't serve me for longer periods of time. And, it's not everything that you would expect, because running your own business, you have to govern yourself. You don't just report to a boss and do what they say and get paid. You actually have to tell yourself what to do, and you have to do it as well as you can, and then you don't know what results are going to come for it. You might get amazing results. Like, I've made over $10,000 in a month many times, but I've also made $0 in a month plenty times. And that's stressful. That's so stressful to have so many ups and downs in your finances, and especially when your finances come from social media and from doing well on social media. It's a lot of pressure. So for me, I felt like I had to be this perfect version of myself. And I did share really authentically about a lot of emotions I was going through, because I was part of me being a creator, was sharing about my spiritual journey. But I definitely left a lot of parts out. Like, I kind of left out a lot of the struggles I was having with ego. Like, I definitely can have a struggle with pride and with wanting to be the best and wanting to be better than other people at certain things. And it was a part of me that I denied for a long time. I kind of thought that I'd transcended that prideful part of my ego. Um, but as I got a lot of success, it really went to my head, and I ended up kind of, because I felt because I didn't fully feel worthy of receiving all the things that I received, I had to like put on a face of worthiness, and that became like an ego almost, because I didn't want to look at all the parts of myself that were like, are you sure you deserve this? Are you sure you're good enough at what you teach? Are you sure you're embodied enough to teach all this, to be this person? And it's so toxic. It's so toxic to be running from a part of yourself all the time. And I feel so much freer and happier stepping into this new phase where I don't have to live up to a certain standard that, the whole time I was setting for myself anyways, because there's so many people out there that accept me for exactly who I am and how I am. Because I'm a sacred degenerate. I have a lot of beautiful sacred aspects to myself. I've had a lot of insane divine experiences and revelations and abilities, and I have a huge heart, and I care so much about humanity and the world. But also, I struggle with ego sometimes, and also I struggle with grandioseness and thinking I'm larger than life, and that my life is larger than other people's lives. And I also struggle with like excessive cannabis use and just smoking a lot of weed. And I wouldn't say I struggle with it, because it helps me in a lot of ways, but it definitely isn't fully aligned in my life, and I'm aware of that. And it's been more aligned lately than at different times in my life. But I'm learning temperance. I'm learning how to have my desires in moderation. So be able to have a little bit of weed here and there, a couple times a week instead of every day. Learning how to eat healthier foods, and because I want to. Like, this is what temperance is about. This is something I've been learning about. Is temperance is not about just disciplining yourself to do the right thing all the time. It's about learning to desire the right thing. So it's about meeting your desires in the middle. So it's like, if you have this desire for sugary foods, you realize, oh, if I eat sugary foods like this amount per week, it's not really going to negatively affect me. But if I eat them multiple meals per day, it's going to really negatively affect me. So what if and I actually desire to have a life where I'm healthy. So I actually want to eat sugary things like 3 times a week. I don't even want to eat them every single day. So that's what temperance is you actually just want to have a healthy moderation of things. You're not denying yourself where you're like, I don't want it at all. I have zero, food that's too sugary at all. And then deep down, you really want it. And it's like this other side of you boils up and festers because instead of integrating as a whole and balancing yourself out where you actually are, you're in this state where you're trying to be a perfect image of yourself. And instead of actually being who you are forcing yourself to be an image, which cuts you off from a lot of your life force energy. Because your life force energy flows when you are fully present. And in order for you to be fully present, you have to acknowledge these parts of you that desire what you might mentally think is wrong. So whether that be sugary foods or sex or substances or, overworking out or being a workaholic and spending too much time trying to make money instead of actually building relationships in your life, or spending too much time with your friends and not focusing on your personal finances and your self-development. There's so many different ways we can follow our lower desires, even if they look like they're higher, but they're really just ways that we're indulging in life. And learning to indulge in moderation is what temperance is. And that's what I'm learning for myself, how to indulge in cannabis, smoking weed with temperance, how to indulge in sex with temperance and having sexual thoughts not take up so much of my attention, be able to focus through my day without being distracted by different thoughts that come up, and understanding that there's nothing wrong with, as a whole human, having all of these different kinds of desires. It's just part of humanity is learning how to balance that. We're not eradicating ourselves from all of our desires. That's, unless you're fully enlightened, that's not going to happen. So we need to learn how to temper our desires, how to have them in moderation. A lot of people, they either know how to go crazy with something or they can have none of it at all. But if you can learn how to have moderation with something, how to have it some of the time, then you can actually be in a much higher state of consciousness. Because if you're forcing yourself to have none at all of something that you desire, in a lot of cases, you still desire it massively, probably more now. Probably inside your soul, you desire that thing even more now because you get none of it. But when you get some of it, you would go out of control. So you have to have none of it. But actually learning temperance, learning how to have some of it, but how to have that higher desire for what's right for you be more powerful than the lower desire of the momentary pleasure, the instant gratification. So I feel like that's a much more important skill to develop than like hardcore discipline at this time in humanity's development. Because we're going through a shift where we're fully, authentically aligning with our souls. And you can't do that if you're denying parts of yourself. And when you're forcing yourself to be perfect, you're denying parts of yourself. You might just want to not use a substance. Like, I have no desire to go do meth. So it's not that I'm like tempered in my desire. I'll do a little bit of meth, just a little bit here and there. It's about, I don't even want to do that. But there are other things, like weed. I do want to smoke weed, but I don't want to smoke weed every single day. So I have to temper that desire and kind of fuse my rationality with my passionate eros, my love for consuming existence. Because that's a beautiful part of you as well. A lot of people that sacrifice all their desires, they forget how to enjoy things. Because it's kind of like if you shut down your heart because you're too sad, then you can't be as happy. If you shut down all your desires, you can't experience healthy desire. You can't experience the feeling of craving and acquiring something that is in alignment. Because you're blocking out your whole craving center and you're running from just pure logical. So you're going full into masculine energy and you're denying the wildness and the chaotic energy of your feminine energy that wants to be wild. and that wants to enjoy, that wants to soak in the juices of life. So I feel like this is an evolution of humankind, is we're leaving the phase of the masculine oppressing the feminine. And this is so relevant amongst so many different layers of life. One of the biggest layers, obviously, is external. We're seeing now women get equal rights to men. So what that is the energetic reflection of the masculine energy realizing it can't dominate the feminine. It needs to allow the feminine to thrive with it. But on an individual level, that shows up in the ego versus the heart. So ego is not masculine energy. Ego can have feminine and masculine, but when we're in a lot of the problem of Earth is an overdrive of masculine energy in the ego. That's a lot of the energetic issues that are going on, is basically people that live in a state of hyper self-discipline where they don't even let themselves like freely, spontaneously express anything. Everything that comes out that they do and everything that they think about comes from like a decision in their mind. And there's a huge school of thought that this is actually what is higher consciousness. But in my opinion, it is not. It is a much lower consciousness to operate from a disciplined idea in your head. It's a much higher consciousness to develop a relationship to reality where there's a balance between the intention and what you are pushing out to the world and what you're taking back in and receiving from the world. So it's about learning that you at your core are perfect. It's not that you need to attain some perfection through following ideals. It's that you at your core are perfect, and once all is revealed, you'll see that you are completely perfect. So you don't need to obsessively follow a discipline of ideas, because a lot of the time that comes from a fear of not being enough as you are. And one of the most powerful things that you can say for yourself is, I am enough as I am. A good affirmation you can say is, I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. That's enough for abundance. That's enough for love. That's enough to be happy, to flourish, is just you being as you are now, but just letting go of the idea that you need to be anything else. And so when we get into this concept, this hyper masculine energy of trying to intentionally follow ideals and jumping over our emotions and bypassing them in order to follow this perfect way of thinking and acting, what happens is we are not understanding how existence works. We're not understanding how the trees grow. We're not understanding how the water flows. We're not understanding how God creates. Because we are one with all of this around us. We're not this separate, tortured thing that needs to be perfect somehow. We're a perfect part of the perfect whole. So grow like a tree grows. Is a tree sitting there going, I will grow roots strongly, I will absorb water? No, it's just what it is. What a tree is something that will grow under these circumstances. And you are just like that. You are not a creation from your own mind. You exist independently, and you have all that you need within yourself. You're like a seed, and you just need to plant yourself in a nice environment and water yourself and watch yourself grow. You don't need to obsessively try to make quotas and try to attain personality traits and try to change your external circumstances in life. Just keep watering your plant, and all that stuff will naturally happen. I'm not saying not that you shouldn't do it. I'm saying that it shouldn't be your main focus. Your main focus should be, how can I water myself? How can I nurture myself? How can I nurture what is? Let me say that again. How can I nurture what is? Not how can I create what's gonna be. How can I nurture what is? How can I serve what is? How can I serve myself as I am now? How can I love myself now more? And that will cascade into the future, but it will always be the now. But when we get obsessive about what we're creating and how we want it to look and how we want ourselves to behave and what the ideal way to be a man or be a woman or the ideal way to be a spiritual person, and we're trying obsessively to live up to this mental image in our head, we actually get so much farther from it because we forget the simple truth that we already are that. You're not creating yourself. You're revealing yourself. You're letting go of all this muck and mess that's clouded your vision. And you're just seeing things clearly again. And you're being who you are clearly again. It's simple and it is effortless and it happens like a tree grows and it happens like the grass grows and it happens like the water cycle goes. It happens how the fish live in the sea. It happens how the stars move in the sky. It happens the way that everything happens, spontaneously and in a liberated fashion. And without any control of the individual. It happens of the whole. The whole is doing it. That's one thing that we all forget. We think of ourselves as these independent beings that are struggling with being better or worse, which is true from a certain way of looking at things, you know? There's a certain value in seeing our life through the perspective of choice. That's third density. If you know the third ray, the third density of reality is about choice. That's an important layer, but it's not everything. But when we get so hypnotized and we think that our choices are the most important things in existence, that's not true. Really, they're not very important in the whole span of existence at all, except to you, and only for a short period of time as you transition in this phase from the third density to fourth and fifth density, which operates in higher levels of reality, operates in love. So sit with yourself and check in and make sure you're not running away. And if you are running away from something within yourself, what is it? And not what is it externally? Oh, it's my fear of abandonment from my mom. No, what is it actually? What is the sensation of it? What is the shape of it in your energy body? Does it have a color? What does it actually feel like to encounter this? What does it actually feel like to be a human being? So this is what being a sacred degenerate is about. It's about realizing you are a sacred degenerate. And what does that mean? It means, yeah, you're a degenerate. You know, you're not perfect. You make stupid choices sometimes. You make terrible choices sometimes. But you are still sacred and holy in your entire being, every cell in your body, and every aspect of your mind, body, and soul, as they are and as they always have been. Because you're here now. That means the universe is doing you. Just like a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. The whole universe is creating you. You're not this independent thing that needs to get all its choices right. You are the whole universe. So give some of that stress, some of that pressure you feel inside of you, give it off to the universe to hold. Because it's not about you. You're the little fingertip. Be the fingertip. Stop trying to be the brain of reality. There's a much bigger divine mind that is the brain of reality, and it is who you are too. But right now, in your expression, you're the fingertip. So let the hand point, let the hand poke, let the hand do what it's going to do with the fingertip. And trust that whatever's happening with the fingertip is what the hand is doing with it, and it's what the mind is wanting to do with it. It's hard to understand, but all of your actions, all of your decisions are part of the divine plan, and they're all holy and sacred. And I want to explain this. The reason is because reality is actually just light. And I know you've probably heard that. You've heard, oh, it's all light and love. I want you to actually viscerally experience this. Reality is actually just light. It's just light. And what do I mean by that? Do I mean it's perfect? It's all nice? No. Light, like literal physical light. The universe is metaphysical light. Everything. All of your sense experiences are just radiations of light. I want you to tune in. First one that's obviously light is your vision. We already know that we're literally perceiving light. So basically, everything you're paying attention to in this moment, it's light. And we already know that in the visual field, right? But light is just energy, and when that energy vibrates slower, it's sound. And when it vibrates slower, it's physical touch and sensations. They're just different vibrations of light. So all your smell, your taste, your vision, your hearing. Did I miss one? Whatever. All your five senses. It's light. It's light information. And then let's take it a higher place. Your thoughts are just light forms. And I know I'm not proving that they're light, but feel them, experience them. They're all different vibrations of energy. And what is that energy? It's light. It's light. And these light images are displayed like pixels on a screen. So sometimes you see on the pixel on the screen, the villain is killing the victim. Or maybe the hero is stopping the villain. Just like when you look onto a movie screen and it looks like there's things happening and it looks like there's a real reality there, but the reality really is a bunch of people watching light on a screen. And if you've ever read Plato's Cave, this is what Plato was talking about, is how we are looking at these shadows on the wall. We're looking at these images made of light, and we're forgetting that it's actually just a campfire behind us. It's not actually a bunch of images fighting each other. So the essence of being a sacred degenerate is remembering that all is God, all is light. And it's not bypassing, because we're not saying that you shouldn't tend to your negative emotions. That's light too. And, working through boundary issues in your relationship, that's light too. It's all light, and all the mistakes you've made too. And when you accustom yourself to this idea, it's actually a lot easier to act from a higher place. Because when you realize that it's all just a movie and that you can create the movie how you want, why wouldn't you want it to be a nicer, more fun movie? Do you think you'll create from a better place when you're scared and trying to protect yourself, or when you realize there's no threat, there's no danger, you are free and you're free to create whatever you want? What do you think is going to make you create a better reality? What do you think is going to facilitate you creating a better reality? I think that seeing the world as completely non-threatening, completely benign, completely beautiful, completely divine, all of it, like the Aghori Babas in India, who completely embrace a principle like this, and they purposefully go to the darkest parts of reality and experience those energies and see them as divine. I don't like to take it that far, because I don't think there's any reason for me to tend to that. I don't need to be perfect in my vision of the divine. I just need to remember that that's true and then operate from that truth, which once again is something that naturally comes when you start seeing that life is all light, that all is service as well. All pain you go through is serving your higher self, and it's serving the universe in its multi-billion year journey. Well, if you include everyone's individual life, nearly infinite journey through this reality. So peaceful here. So I hope you can live your life with a little bit less shame. Even if you're not consciously aware of the shame, notice the tension that arises in your stomach when you go to eat a Oreo, or that feeling after you got hungover, where it's not the physical sensation of the hangover, but it's the mental part of, God, why can't I just do this? I want you to notice that more, because it's a lot more harmful to you than you think. Because that's your mental palace that you live in up there. You're really going to have someone in there nagging you all the time, telling you you're not doing stuff right enough, even though you're honestly doing so many things right. And you're not doing everything right. You're doing a bunch of things shitty. But that's okay. That's part of reality. I do a bunch of things shitty too. I'm so lazy sometimes, and I make stupid decisions based on my desires and comfort, and I miss opportunities that arise. But I also do a bunch of cool shit, and I'm awesome too. And I am so tapped in, and I love myself, and I love my friends, and I love my life. You know, it's both. It's both. You don't need to be perfect, nor could you ever be more perfect than you actually are in this exact moment, because, you know, it's just light. It's just light dancing on a screen, and you're just there. Oh, look. PETA, come here. Here's my cat, PETA. Come here. Come be on the podcast. She has a lot to say. Let's see. You want to say something? She's a sacred degenerate too. She's really cute and cuddly, but she just sometimes murders birds for no reason. She just murders them. And I have to like try to save them. So thanks so much for watching, and, you know, let yourself be a little bit of a degenerate, you know, let yourself be a degen. It's okay. Because I know you are deep down in a lot of ways, and I love you for it. I'm not blaming you. I'm like that too. You know? But just remember, even in your deepest degeneracy, you are sacred.